Hello everyone, I'm here today to do a mid-month wrap-up. So I've already read 8 books this month already, so I thought if I left it till the end of the month to do a wrap-up, that video would be really long and it just feels more sensible, and it'd probably be more fun for you guys to watch if I did a wrap-up now and then I do another wrap-up at the end of the month with all the books I read in the second half of January, because I still have loads of books to get through this month that I'm really excited about. So obviously I'm on a bit of a reading roll right now, and also it's been a really good reading month as well, because of the books I'm going to talk about in this video. I gave 3 of them 3 stars, 1 of them 4 stars, and 4 of them 5 stars. So we are 2 weeks into 2018 and I've already given 4 books 5 stars, which is just so exciting, and I cannot wait to see what the rest of the year brings me reading wise, because it's shaping up to be a really good reading year. So I'm going to start with the books that I gave 3 stars to. One of those is The Truth and Lies of Ella Black by Emily Barr. So I was really excited to read this because I really enjoyed her YA contemporary, The One Memory of Flora Banks, that came out last year. I didn't enjoy this one quite so much, unfortunately. So this follows Ella Banks, who seemingly has a dark side to her personality that she tries to repress as much as possible. And one day when her parents pick her up from school, they whisk her away to Rio de Janeiro with no explanation at all, and she uncovers a deep dark secret from her past while she's there that changes her life forever. And I can't really say too much more without spoiling the events of this book, but I didn't really like Ella from the start, if I'm going to be honest. She makes some really ridiculous, dramatic decisions during the course of this book. There's also a really bad case of insta-love, which her love interest unfortunately reciprocated, so it became even less believable and relatable. Also, this is marketed as a thriller, and it just felt quite slow for a thriller for me. I normally get through thrillers really fast because they're really fast-paced and I want to know what happens, and I just didn't really get into this in quite the same way that I normally get into thrillers. There were a few little twists that I didn't see coming, which is why it got 3 stars and not less. I did write a full review of this on my blog though, so I will leave a link to that review in the description down below, so if you're more interested, obviously give that review a read. Another book that I gave 3 stars to this month, I also wrote a full review of on my blog, so I will of course link that review in the description down below, and that is If I Die Before I Wake by Emily Kosh. And this is an adult psychological thriller about a guy who is in hospital, and all of his friends and family and all of the medical staff believe that he's in a coma, but he's not, because he can hear all the conversations going on around him. He just can't physically communicate to anyone that he's there. All the scans on his brain come up with no brain activity for some reason, but the accident that put him there seemingly wasn't an accident, and he kind of knows this, and he's trying to communicate to everyone that someone did this to him, and it's a really unique perspective to read from, and I really loved how the writer conveyed this kind of desperate emotion. I really felt that from him, but obviously because we spend the entire narrative inside his head, it's quite important that you like him, and I was never really sure if I did or not, because he came across as quite fickle and disloyal at times as well, so that definitely affected my enjoyment of the book, but it was a really unique perspective to read from. I really enjoyed that whole aspect of it. I did write a full review of this on my blog, as I said, so obviously give that a read if it feels like it might be something that you are interested in. The next book that I gave 3 stars to this month is Everless by Sarah Holland. So this is the first in a new YA fantasy series, and in this world, time is money. So your blood is extracted from your veins, and your blood is like your life force and your lifespan, if you like, and the blood is then bound to these little iron coins, and then the coins are consumed, and that's how you add time onto your life. And the rich control everything in this world, and they tax the poor very heavily, so the rich people live forever and ever in this world, and the poor people are obviously desperately trying to get themselves some time and money. And our main character is very poor. Her father is dying, so she takes a job at this grand estate called Everless, which is run by this very wealthy, cruel family, in order to help her father out of his situation. It was a very unique concept at the heart of it. There's some unique mythology thrown in there as well, which I didn't really expect just on the synopsis, but it just kind of felt like a very normal run-of-the-mill YA fantasy. You had all of the normal tropes that you get in YA fantasy that I'm getting really tired of, and I just wanted a little bit more uniqueness, I think, from it. There were a few plot inconsistencies as well that definitely affected my enjoyment, but it did end on a bit of a cliffhanger, so I am quite interested to see where the story goes from here, so I may pick up the sequel if it comes out and I feel in the mood to read it, but I think I just wanted something a little bit more unique. I did write a full review of this on my blog too, so I will of course leave a link to that review in the description down below for you guys. Now on to the comic book that I gave 4 stars to this month, and that is Saga Volume 8 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. So obviously, because this is number 8 in the Saga series, I'm not going to talk too much about the actual events of this book, but Saga is essentially the story of a couple who come from opposing sides of a warring planet and its moon, and they have a child together, and they're on the run from various people who want to catch up to them and punish them because they're not supposed to be together because they're supposed to be enemies. So it's kind of like a sci-fi Romeo and Juliet, but with a lot of craziness thrown in there. There's a lot of graphic violence and sex as well, so if you are sensitive to any of that, I definitely wouldn't recommend it. So this latest installment was just so crazy and so fast paced and so addictive. We've got some new crazy characters thrown in there, some very clever tackling of some very serious topics too. We're ended on a very strange cliffhanger again, so I cannot wait for the next installment, which I guess isn't going to come out now until next year, so we've got ages and ages to wait, but yeah, really enjoyed Saga this month. Now on to the books that I gave 5 stars to this month. So one of those is The Sacrifice Box by Martin Stewart. So this was actually in my 5-star predictions video, and I was really happy to be able to give it the 5 stars. So this follows a group of teenagers who aren't each other's normal playmates, but they all find themselves alone one summer. So they kind of band together and they had this amazing summer together, and at the end of the summer they find this little iron box and they each decide to make a sacrifice of something that's important to them, and they put it in this box kind of like to seal their friendship and the fact they had this great summer together. And then years later someone has broken the pact that they made when they made these sacrifices. So the pact was never come to the box alone, never open it after dark, and never take back your sacrifice. And basically, because someone's broken this pact, all hell has broken loose in this town, and they have to try and find out exactly who's broken it and what exactly they're going to do about it. It's very strange, but if you like Stephen King and YA, I cannot recommend The Sacrifice book enough because it very much reads like a YA Stephen King book. It was so good. I really love the character dynamics and the whole Stephen King oddities that you can definitely see the Stephen King influences in there. It was just so good. I did write a full review of this on my blog too, so I will of course leave a link to that review in the description down below, so give that a read if you are more interested. The next book that I gave 5 stars to is in a completely different vein to The Sacrifice Box, and that is 3 Things About Elsie by Joanna Cannon. This follows an elderly lady who has fallen over in her flat, and while she is while she's waiting to be rescued, she starts looking back over her life, and she has a secret in her past, and there's an old man who has moved into her sheltered accommodation block who looks exactly like someone she knows died years and years before, but it's just so quirky, it's so funny, and it's so uplifting. I couldn't put it down, and I think the physical version of this is over 400 pages, but I read it easily in a day. It was so good. It was very emotional, just very beautiful. I cannot recommend this enough if you love your very funny cozy mysteries, because that's exactly what it is. But it was just a lovely story of lifelong friendship and growing old and memories and all of that kind of stuff. It was just so beautiful. Cannot rave about this book enough, so please pick it up if it sounds like your kind of thing. The next book I gave 5 stars to this month is Beneath the Sugar Sky by Seanan Maguire. Now this is the 3rd book in the Wayward Children series of novellas, but all of the novellas are kind of standalone stories in themselves. They're just set in the same world, if that makes sense. So this is the 3rd book in the series, and in this installment, a young girl falls out of the sky into the turtle pond of the Centre for Wayward Children, and she is claiming to be the daughter of a character who died in the first book, and her mother apparently died before she could have her, so she is kind of fading away Back to the Future style, because she supposedly never could have been born in this world that she's found herself in, and a group of the wayward children help her get back to her strange candy land that she is from, to hopefully resurrect her mother and get her back to her normal self and make sure the timeline runs as it should. These are very, very dark, whimsical, magical fairy tales, and because they're so short, I think all of them are less than 200 pages. They don't take you long to get through. They're just lovely little bursts of whimsical fantasy, but they are just so good. Some lovely diverse characters, some great chemistry between them, and it was just a really lovely little story. So yeah, I cannot recommend the Wayward Children series enough if it sounds like your kind of thing. And the last book that I gave 5 stars to so far this month is The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor. So this follows a group of childhood friends who they leave like little messages to each other made of chalk men and things like that, just to kind of pass the time in their little sleepy English town. And then one day a mysterious chalk message leads them to a dead body, essentially. And then 20 years later, they each start getting strange chalk messages through letters in the post, and they kind of feel that something is still amiss in this strange town that's to do with this dead body. And it was just so good. It was so creepy, it really was, but it was just so addictive. And I cannot recommend this enough if you like your, again, Stephen King-esque horror thriller mysteries. It was really good. I know a lot of people have been raving about The Chalk Man recently, but it was really good, and I cannot recommend it enough if you love your very creepy small town mysteries. So yeah. And that is it for my mid-month January wrap up. What books have you read so far this year that you've really enjoyed? Please let me know. I will leave all of my social media in the description down below. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you very soon for another video. Bye bye.